up, Broncos country? Welcome back inside the UC Health Training Center for another edition of Broncos Now. As always, I'm your host, Sydney Jones, and the Broncos hit the road tomorrow to head to Buffalo. We are now just 2 days away from the team's second preseason game in their only road game of the preseason. As the Broncos continue to prepare for Saturday's game, Buffalo Bills head coach Sean McDermott announced this morning that Bills quarterback Josh Allen and most of the team's starters will play a healthy amount versus the Broncos this Saturday, according to their team website. Head coach Nathaniel Hackett was asked about it during his press conference this morning and said that it isn't going to change any of his plans. Plus, it will be a great evaluation for those who do play on Saturday.
It's about our team and our team only. The only time we'll ever affect kind of with the things that we do is during the season. That's the best evaluation you could possibly get. I mean, we want to see who can come out there and play versus the best in the league. So I think it's an unbelievable opportunity for those guys to step up and show what they can do.
And offensive coordinator Justin Outten and defensive coordinator Ejiro Evero both chimed in.
It's great to face a different opponent in their house. It'll be a first away game for our young guys and facing starters. And it's a great measuring stick for some guys that are, first time in the league or, first time in the system. So we'll see how it plays out. Playing there last year, and they had a bunch of starters in as well. It was a really good test for us to kind of see where we were before the season.
It's a great opportunity for them to play against the best, Josh Allen and some of those starting receivers and linemen, and so they should all relish that opportunity.
With today being the final practice before the team heads to Buffalo, Coach Hackett recapped the day and praised the defense's performance in the red zone.
Yeah, it was great. To see the defense getting after it. For those first two periods, I was all defense. I was a defensive head coach. And then after that, switched back to offense. The defense is playing really well. And, the offense has to step up. That wasn't good enough. They didn't do good enough. There were some mental errors. There were some missed blocks. There were some drops, all that kind of stuff. And it wasn't just one guy. It was a combination of everybody. And the reality of it is they have to work through that stuff. I mean, that happens. You saw it this past game. We started slow on offense. The great thing was they stuck together, and we were able to rebound and score 3 consecutive drives in a row. So that's part of the process. They have to learn that stuff. And it was great to see the offense hop out there. And, they had a really good 2-minute drive and some other things. So, that's the whole process. They got to learn how to get through that stuff.
Coach Evero detailed what the defense stressed today, while Coach Outten said it was a great learning experience for the offense.
Tight areas, everything happens fast. You just got to be ready to anticipate. You got to be ready to play fast. You got to be on the details with your stuff, and so that's kind of what we stress.
That was great for us. That was great to get hit in the mouth at practice. It was playing at a high level, and we had to wake up. And it was good for us to wake up and get into that call period and move the ball, and we end up getting an explosive touchdown. That was the way to respond. And it's going to be a good coaching point moving into the meetings here.
Now joining me here in the Broncos podcast studio is Broncos lead writer Eric Dalala. Eric, appreciate you joining me on the show today, as always.
Of course.
Well, we heard earlier in the show from Bills head coach Sean McDermott. We talked about his decision to play Josh Allen and most of their starters on Saturday. Coach Hackett said his risk-reward will not change based on that news. What are your thoughts on all of that?
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that the Bills starters are going to play, that Josh Allen is going to be out there. Obviously, as valuable as we consider Russell Wilson, Josh Allen is the same thing to the Buffalo Bills. Clearly, Sean McDermott needs to see more from him or just wants him to get a few reps. They do have a new offensive coordinator, so after Brian Daboll goes to the Giants, so maybe that has part of it with Ken Dorsey kind of in their offensive coordinator chair now. But I'll tell you what I like is that Nathaniel Hackett isn't going to allow that to impact him. I think it'd be very easy, tempting almost, as a first-time head coach to say, okay, well, if Josh Allen's going to play, let's see how Pat Surtain, let's see how Pat Surtain, let's see how Justin Simmons, Bradley Chubb, let's see how those guys do against maybe the best offense in the entire NFL. And I appreciate the fact that he's saying, we're going to stick to our plan. We're going to do what we do. We're not going to worry about what Buffalo's doing the same way that right now you can't worry about what Kansas City is doing or Las Vegas or the Los Angeles Chargers. You got to do what you need to do to get ready for September 12th in the Broncos case. And so I like that he's doing that. It really does not sound like Russell Wilson, Nathaniel Hackett, all but said is not going to play.
Yeah.
And it sounds like the rest of the starters aren't going to play either. So in Buffalo, you're going to get a real test for guys like Baron Browning. If Malik Reed gets a few snaps again, PJ Locke and Caden Stearns, a couple of guys that have looked good. Those guys are going to get a real chance defensively to go against one of the best offenses in the entire NFL. And I think you'll get a good evaluation of those guys.
Yeah. And I like that a lot of the coaches today said that this is a great situation for them to really evaluate those younger guys, like you mentioned. Eric, I know today there's been a ton of talk surrounding the defense's performance at practice and, them dominating in the red zone. Still the preseason, I know, like we just mentioned, we won't see much of them throughout, the next couple of games of the preseason, but that has to get you excited for, come September 12th and just really how dominant they're going to be this season. I think they will be.
Yeah, I think there's a real chance of that. I think if you hadn't have seen how the Broncos offense performed against the Cowboys, you'd be a little concerned after today just because the defense didn't let anything into the end zone during a red zone period, as we heard Nathaniel Hackett talk about. They were just dominant. It's as good as I've seen them all of training camp, all of the preseason. Really impressive from them on all levels, the secondary, the pass rush, the defensive line. So that's really encouraging, I think, if you're a Broncos fan, because, listen, this offense is going to have success against a lot of defenses. And if this defense can not only stand up to that offense, but also have days that they're going to win, that's really encouraging. They certainly have the talent. Pat Surtain, Justin Simmons, Bradley Chubb, just mentioned those guys. But then you also think about, I think Josie Jewell's a better player than people give him credit for.
Oh, yeah.
K'Wan Williams in the slot, I think, is going to be a great addition. DJ Jones and Draymond Jones, if those guys can stay healthy up there, those are two powerful, tenacious defensive linemen. This group has a lot of talent, and we've seen some good defenses here, Sydney, over the last few years. Obviously, third in points allowed last year, though they were kind of a bend but don't break defense. In 2016, top defense in the league again in pass. So they've had some good defenses here since that, storied Super Bowl 50 team. Mm-hmm. I think this group has a chance of being really good and being right up in that conversation.
Well, another guy that's kind of under the radar here that was really a point of conversation today too was rookie center Luke Wattenberg. I know Justin Outen really praised him today when he was up at the podium for his press conference. What have you really seen from him over the past couple weeks, throughout training camp and the first preseason game?
Yeah, I think the good thing about the first preseason game is you don't notice him, and that's kind of what you want in an offensive lineman. You don't want to look back and say, okay, well, who was that got beaten there in pass protection, or who whiffed on that block?
Right.
There are times when you see that from guys, that's going to happen, but I liked the way that Luke Wattenberg was able to go in there, handle himself in his first NFL action. He played some center, he played some guard. And I wouldn't kind of underrate just the ability of a guy who was a day 3 draft pick to come in and immediately cement himself. And there's a push from Graham Glasgow right now with Lloyd Cushenberry and Luke Wattenberg. Luke did a little bit more on this Thursday. I'm trying to remember what day it is.
I know.
It still all blends together. But for him to kind of cement himself as that number 2 center for now, that's really impressive as a late round pick to come in as a rookie and prove enough to the coaches that, hey, I deserve to be this guy behind Lloyd Cushenberry. Mm-hmm. We've seen him get some snaps with the ones at time with Russell Wilson, which, that must be kind of crazy for a young guy. So I've been impressed with him, and you kind of go through the roster and say which rookies are going to make this team. Luke Wattenberg is going to be one of those guys.
Mm-hmm. Well, just one day now. We hit the road tomorrow, Eric. You excited?
I am excited.
Yeah, I've never been to Buffalo.
It's great. Great town.
Looking forward to it, Eric. Appreciate your time always.
Yeah, of course.
Now it's time to take a look at today's injury update. Lloyd Cushenberry, Jonas Griffith, Kareem Jackson, Natani Muti, Tyree Cleveland, Marquise Spencer, and Billy Turner all did not participate today. KJ Hamler was back in pads today for the first time in a couple of weeks. This was Lloyd Cushenberry's 3rd consecutive day not practicing and Billy Turner's 2nd. Coach Hackett gave an update on Billy and said that he's getting a little extra treatment, just working through his knee and getting everything right so he can be back at full speed. That's all the time we have for today's episode. Broncos Country, thanks so much for tuning in for another edition of Broncos Now. I hope you'll meet me right back here on the Broncos Podcast Network and YouTube tomorrow evening as we will preview the Broncos' 2nd preseason game versus the Bills. I'll see you all then.